up at the Chrysler building on a clear morning and you'll see them. Chrome eagles sticking out from the 61st floor, catching the light like they're challenging the city to look away. William Van Allen placed them there in 1930, and they have been watching New York change ever since. Art Deco did that. It creates things meant to last longer than the era that made them, which makes you wonder why the movement itself faded in less than 30 years. Art Deco was born in the 1920s, grew and changed through the 1930s, and faded away by the 1940s. How does the most glamorous design style in history go from shaping skylines around the world to being considered dead before World War II even begins? To understand why it looked the way it did, we need to go back a little further, to the world that existed before it. In the year before 1914, life in Europe and America moved slowly and with confidence. People trusted their governments, their churches, and their traditions. Cities were growing, trade was expanding, and most people believed that tomorrow will be a little better than today. That quiet optimism had a visual language, and it was called Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau shaped buildings, furniture, jewelry, and everyday objects. Its signature was the curve, soft, flowing line borrowed from nature. Doorways were framed with iron shaped like climbing vines, lamps bloomed like flowers, staircases curved like branches reaching toward lights. It matched the mood of civilizations that still believed in gentle, natural progress. In the summer of 1914, Europe went to war. The same industrial technology that had built those elegant Art Nouveau cities was now producing poison gas, machine guns, and artillery shells on an almost unimaginable scale. By 1918, nearly 20 million people were dead. Entire generation had been wiped out. Peace, when it finally arrived, felt nothing like relief. The Treaty of Versailles left Germany humiliated. Many people had lost faith in their leaders, in their countries, and in the old ideas that had grown up with. After experiencing industrialized slaughter, it was almost impossible to look at a delicate floral decoration and take it seriously. The soft curves of Art Nouveau now felt out of touch. The world had changed. Design had to change with it. Out of this broken world came a new generation, and they were determined to live differently. Young people left small towns and moved to cities. In America, they poured into New York and Chicago. In Europe, they gathered in London, Berlin, and all above all Paris, which was still the cultural capital of the world, where artists, writers, musicians, and designers came to share ideas and push boundaries. This generation had watched their parents' world collapse. They had little interest to old rules. They worked hard during the day and at night went out and had as much fun as possible. In America, one of the rules they rejected most enthusiastically was prohibition. From January 1920, alcohol was illegal. Rather than accept this, millions of Americans went underground. Illegal bars called speakeasies opened across every city, serving cocktails made from smuggled liquor. Breaking the law had become fashionable. The speakeasy, with its hidden entrance and jazz band and sense of danger, became one of the defining images of the era, and its glamorous, slightly defiant spirit fed directly into Art Deco. No group embodied this new attitude more visibly than young women. Before the war, they could not vote, depended on husbands or fathers for money, and their lives revolved around church, home, and children. The war changed that. With men away fighting, women took on jobs that had always belonged to men. In factories, offices, hospitals, and transportation. Then in 1920, the 19th Amendment gave them the right to vote. A new type of young women emerged, the flapper. Long hair was cut into bob or shingle styles, and tight corsets were replaced by light short dresses and sheer stockings. Bold makeup, bright jewelry, nightclubs, cigarette, and hidden flasks of illegal alcohol, living life entirely on their own terms. Coco Chanel gave this shift a high fashion language. Her elegant yet practical designs appealed to women who wanted to hold onto their newfound freedoms. The new look was called the garçon, the feminine form of the French word for boy, popularized by Victor Margarite's 1922 novel. Chanel's garçon style spread quickly to Britain and America, where it became known as the flapper look. The women who embodied this ideal came from different worlds. Louise Brooks with her sharp black bob, Josephine Baker lighting up the Paris stage, Marlene Dietrich making androgyny glamorous on screen. What they shared was a refusal to dress in a way that limited them. With the old world gone and a new generation in charge, designers faced a real challenge. What should the future look like? The answer did not come from one place, it came from everywhere at once. In 1922, archaeologist Howard Carter opened the sealed tomb of Tutankhamun, and the world lost its mind. Egyptian motifs flooded into Art Deco design: scarabs, lotus flowers, pyramids, sphinxes, stylized wings, all reinterpreted through geometric precision. The vibrant color of Egyptian art, deep blues, turquoise, gold, and black, became standard in fashion and jewelry. Art Deco also looked to classical Greece and Rome, borrowing tall columns and sculptural figures but simplifying and sharpening them, stripping away the fuzziness and keeping only what felt powerful and clean. Since Japan had opened the Western trade in the 1815s, European designers had been fascinated by Asian aesthetics. By the 1920s, that fascination was fully woven into Art Deco. Bamboo, jade, and ebony appeared in furniture. Kimono-inspired silk became fashionable. Cherry blossoms and peacocks decorated everything from wallpaper to perfume bottles. Art Deco also absorbed energy from the bold new art movement of the 1920s. Cubism broke objects into geometric shapes. Constructivism argued that art should serve real, practical purpose. An idea Art Deco designs took seriously, creating objects that were both useful and beautiful. Futurism, obsessed with speed and machines, gave Art Deco its sense of forward motion and energy. By the mid-1920s, Paris had become the laboratory where all of this was being tested and refined. Paul Poiret had already revolutionized fashion, replacing corseted Victorian clothing with clean, structured shapes. Jacques-Émile Rouleman was doing the same for furniture, working in rare exotic woods with ivory inlays. And René Lalique, once the jeweler of dragonflies and orchid, had turned to frosted geometric glass. The same mastery, the same luxury instinct, but now openly acknowledging the machine age. In the spring 1925, Paris decided to put all of this on display. The Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes opened in April and ran for 6 months across both banks of the Seine. It drew 16 million visitors from 20 countries. The French government organized it partly out of competitive anxiety. Germany and Austria were emerging as rivals in modern design, and France wanted to prove it still controlled the future of culture. What those 16 million visitors saw was a bold statement. Civilization had survived the worst the century had thrown at it, and the future would be ordered, elegant, and beautiful. The exhibition gave the movement its lasting name. The Art Décoratifs of that long French title was shortened years later to the two words we still use today, Art Deco. As Art Deco spread beyond Paris, it split into two very different versions of itself. High Deco was the world of the very wealthy, handmade in small quantities by master craftsperson, mostly in France, using rare materials, exotic wood, precision stones, ivory, silver, lacquered surfaces. Love Deco was something else entirely, and in many ways more remarkable. As the style grew in popularity, manufacturers began producing Art Deco designs in large quantities at affordable prices. The same geometric elegance that appeared in a Parisian showroom could now appear on a cinema facade in a small American town, on a mass-produced radio, on everyday packaging. Art Deco was one of the first design movements to genuinely reach everybody. That was part of what made it revolutionary. A America came out of the war economically stronger. By the mid-1920s, it was filled with confidence, jazz clubs, stock market booms, and a consumer culture that did not yet realize it would eventually collapse. If Paris gave Art Deco its ideas, New York gave it ambitions. As Art Deco historian Robert McGregor put it, there was going to be no more poverty, no more ignorance, no more disease. Art Deco reflected that confidence, vigor, and optimism by using symbols of progress, speed, and power. William Van Allen understood this better than almost anyone. When Walter Chrysler hired him to design the Chrysler Building in 1928, Van Allen looked to the automobile for inspiration. The eagle gargoyles on the 61st floor were modeled directly on Chrysler hood ornaments. To beat the rival 40 Wall Street to the world height record, Van Allen assembled a stainless steel spire in secret inside the building's crown, then raised it through the roof in 90 minutes. The Chrysler Building claimed the record in 1930, and even after the Empire State Building surpassed it 11 months later, the point had been made. Rockefeller Center took the idea further still. Not a single tower, but an entire urban environment where architecture, sculpture, murals, and lighting all work together. Sculpturists like Paul Manship's Prometheus turned public plazas into something almost theatrical. Deco was not just designing building, it was designing how people felt as they walked through cities. Radio City Music Hall, which opened in 1932 as part of Rockefeller Center, seated 6,000 people beneath a ceiling covered in 24-karat gold leaf. The entire space was designed to make ordinary people feel, at least for a few hours, like they were living inside the future. While architects raised skyscrapers, something equally important was happening inside ordinary homes. For the first time, most people had electricity. Before the 1920s, homes were lit by kerosene and gas lamps. Suddenly, every home needed electric lamps, and designers treated it as an opportunity. Lighting fixtures became geometric sculptures in bronze, chrome, and frosted glass. The same energy spread into the street. The 1920s and 1930s were the golden age of neon signs. In 1923, Packard Motors brought the first neon sign to America, installing them on their Los Angeles showroom. The city at night had become a spectacle. Inside the home, two objects defined the era: the clock and the radio. The clock became central living room fixtures. Geometric cases in chrome, marble, and lacquered wood, faces framed by sunbursts and stepped patterns. The radio was even more transformative. Bakelite made it possible to mass-produce elegant objects at prices ordinary families could afford. A radio in a streamlined Art Deco case brought geometric elegance into the average home. If one object captured the full spirit of Art Deco, it was probably the car. Through the 1920s, the automobile transformed from expensive novelty into something approaching a necessity. And as cars became more common, they became more beautiful. Long swooping fenders, road headlights, lots of chrome, with smooth sleek curves that made the car appear to be moving even when standing still. As one curator described it, to give the illusion of dramatic movement and forward thrust, cars of the 1930s and 40s merged gentle curved with angular edges, made from the finest material and sported beautifully crafted ornamentation, geometric grillwork, and the elegant miniature statuary of hood ornaments. René Lalique creates some of the most striking hood ornament of the era. Molded glass mascots lit from below, blowing as the car moves through the night. The car had become a piece of rolling Art Deco sculpture. The 1920s brought a perspective America had never seen before. Factories switched from weapons to consumer goods, cars, refrigerators, radios, washing machines, and people bought them urgently on credit. Share prices climbed steadily upward, and ordinary people began putting their savings into stocks. Underneath, something was badly wrong. Factories were producing more than people could buy. Banks were lending more than they could recover, and the stock market had climbed far higher than the real economy could support. On October 29, 1929, Black Tuesday, the market collapsed. Fortunes disappeared within hours. Banks failed, business closed, and by the early 1930s, 1 in 4 American workers had no job. Families who had felt comfortably middle class just years before were standing in breadlines. The decade of confidence was over, and Art Deco, bold, expensive, optimistic, suddenly had to answer a very uncomfortable question: what does luxury mean when most people cannot afford to eat? Ironically, it was during these hardest years that Art Deco reached its widest audience through cinema. Sergei Gribon, head of MGM at Art Department, created iconic set designs built around the streamlined Art Deco look. Elaborate worlds of white rooms, chrome surfaces, and sweeping staircases, crafted to offer audiences escape from the depression. For the price of cinema ticket, an unemployed worker could spend 2 hours surrounded by elegance that existed nowhere near their actual life. On the Sunset Strip in West Hollywood, the Sunset Tower Hotel opened in 1931, and considered one of the finest examples of original Art Deco architecture, became the residential address of Hollywood's most famous and infamous celebrities. Howard Hughes, Marilyn Monroe, Errol Flynn, Frank Sinatra all called it home at various points. Choreographer Busty Berkeley brought Art Deco directly onto the screen, filming his dancer from above in enormous synchronized geometric patterns, spirals, kaleidoscopes, human formations that look less like dance and more like living architecture in motion. His musicals shimmered with spectacle, giving audiences a world where they could forget about their troubles. And perhaps the most important force spreading the style was not architecture or cinema at all. It was advertising. Graphic designers like Cassandra revolutionized posters using geometric typography, diagonal movement, machine-age imagery. Modern cities became flooded with visual communication designed to grab attention instantly. Depression stripped away excess but did not kill the desire for elegance. It redirected it toward objects that could justify their costs through function and modernity, nowhere more visible than transportation. The American railroad industry was in crisis. As passengers' number fell, companies needed to win travelers back. The answer was a new kind of train, stainless steel, aerodynamically shaped, looking like nothing that had ever run on rails before, then what made that journey feel like the future? Francis SS Normandie was perhaps the most complete expression of Art Deco design even built. Her creators gave Art Deco's greatest designers complete freedom. Light fixtures by René Lalique, furniture by Ruhlmann, tea sets of Christoffel. By the late 1930s, the political mood in Europe was darkening in ways that made Art Deco's optimism feel out of place. At the 1937 Paris Exposition, the German and Soviet pavilions faced each other across the fairgrounds, but there was nothing celebratory about them. They were pure political statements built to project power. Standing between them, Art Deco's sunbursts and chevrons suddenly looked like the decoration of a more innocent age. The movement had lost its footing, too expensive for a world recovering from economic disaster, too decorative for architects focused on function, and too connected to 1920s optimists to speak to a world preparing for another catastrophic war. When World War II began in 1939, Art Deco quietly stepped aside. Art Deco lost the argument, but it never disappeared. Art Deco remains widely collected, studied, and restored. Its influence still visible on fashion runways, in interior design, and in architecture worldwide. As one historical wrote, Art Deco reflected confidence, vigor, and optimism by using symbols of progress, speed, and power. That combination, optimism expressed through beauty, is why the style never fully goes out.